Good evening. I will now call to order the Dana Point City Council meeting of Tuesday, September 15th, 2020. Madam Clerk, will you please provide the roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All four members of the City Council are present.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, is there a need for a closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First, we have a conference with legal counsel as a result of anticipated litigation due to the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. We have one case to discuss. Next, we have a conference with legal counsel as a result of existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. We have two cases to discuss. The first is the City of Dana Point versus the Sunshine Group, also known as the Seaside Inn, Orange County Superior Court, case number 3020170091590. Next, we have the case of Nancy Leonard versus City of Dana Point et al., Orange County Superior Court, case number 3020201158639 CUMCCJC. Last, we have a public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, titled City Attorney. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. With that, we will recess to closed session until 6 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the Dana Point City Council meeting of September 15th, 2020. We will now reconvene our meeting and we'll start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. There is no invocation this evening, which brings us to presentations and proclamations. Tonight, we have a proclamation for the Daughters of the American Revolution regarding Constitution Week. For those of you who don't know, DAR is a fantastic organization full of American patriots who are doing great things. And we have a proclamation that I'm going to read on their behalf since we have our COVID protocols still in place. Otherwise, they would be here tonight in person. So I will read the proclamation regarding Constitution Week of September 17th to the 23rd, 2020. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas September 17th, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this memorable anniversary and to the patriotic exercises that will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Richard A. Vixoric, Mayor of the City of Dana Point, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd, 2020 as Constitution Week in the City of Dana Point, and urge all citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Okay, that brings us now to the reading of the ordinance titles. At this time, the city clerk will read the title of any ordinances listed on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinance titles to read?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item number 15 is the first reading introducing an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Dana Point, California, amending Chapter 5.20 of the Dana Point Municipal Code."
Okay, thank you very much. That now brings us to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the city council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, do I have any items to be removed by the public?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item number 9.
Item number 9. Okay. Very good. Mr. City Manager, do we have any items to be removed by staff?
No, sir.
Okay, and do we have any items to be removed by members of the council? Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove item 6.
Item 6. Okay, very well. With that, I will move the recommended actions for the items on the consent calendar with the exceptions of items 6 and 9. Is there a second?
Second.
Very well, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, so we will now take up item number 6. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to pull this item because in the report, there's an incident that's highlighted where a number of our deputies, including Deputy Medeiros, did some really outstanding work. And in this day and age, we don't get enough opportunity to highlight the great work that our law enforcement officers do. So if I turn over to Lieutenant Monteleone, give her an opportunity to tell that story, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. On the night of August 6th, Deputy Medeiros conducted a vehicle stop at about 1:11 in the morning. The stop was for a vehicle that had no lights on. It ended up going into a pursuit into San Clemente, San Juan Capistrano. Vehicle eventually yielded. 2 members in custody. The female had a loaded handgun. There was narcotics, other knives and such inside the vehicle, as well as stolen credit cards and identifications. Later that morning, Riverside Sheriff's Department contacted us that those were 2 homicide suspects out of Riverside from the day before. And the weapon in question was in that vehicle as well. So it was great police work by Deputy Medeiros and everybody else involved.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, this is a receive and file item, so we don't need a motion, but I will go around the council if there's any discussion. Councilman Wyatt?
I have one question since we have the item pulled. I noticed in July, August, that the numbers compared to a year ago look very good except for the larceny numbers. And I was interested in knowing whether we had a particular focus on that or whether the numbers went up without us, and we don't have a real explanation. Hopefully we do, so I thought I would ask.
Yes, sir. So August and July both had high numbers for our larcenies, the same thing as theft for our theft numbers. And most of the difference from other months is our Orange County park properties, meaning Baby Beach, Salt Creek, Strands, Capo. Those are getting hit hard with theft crews. A lot of people leave their valuables unlocked in their vehicles or leave the key on the tire or just leave them in plain view and cars are getting broken into, or people are entering the vehicle and stealing the car. So I can count on at least 2 separate days where we had 6 in one day. So that equates for the rise in that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And we have made measures and done proactivity, and they're definitely down as of the last 2 weeks.
Thank you, Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lieutenant, do we track who these people are that we're catching doing these? Is this a result of releasing prisoners because of COVID-19 that you hear all the stories about? Well, they were picked up today and they were released this afternoon. We got them again in the same day. Are we seeing that down in this area?
We're definitely seeing a hike in recidivism because people are not staying in jail. They're out the next day. But a lot of these thefts are related to certain crews, if you will, which are 5 to 6 members, and they're just hitting various places and they're traveling all up and down the state. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for all your due diligence in trying to shut that down. I also want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Federico for bringing this up. He's absolutely right. We do not give enough credit to our law enforcement with everything that's going on today. That was fantastic work by our deputy. That's just an example of how good the Orange County Sheriff really is. And I really appreciate everything you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Nothing further? Okay, well, I'll echo what Councilman Miller said. First of all, thank you for pulling it because it gives an opportunity to spotlight the excellent work that our deputies do. We have the best deputies here of anywhere in Orange County. I know the deputies that we have do their work because it's their job and they're not looking to get this type of public acclaim for what they do. But I do think it is appropriate to recognize the work that our deputies do. I want to thank you, Lieutenant Monteleone. I know we have deputies here as well, to just take this opportunity to thank you for the work that you're doing for the community. So with that, there's no vote required on this. It's just a receive and file. We'll move on to item 9. Let's see, it was pulled by a member of the public. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Our Assistant City Manager, Kelly Renders, will provide a brief staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you tonight is an item just to renew the city's membership in the Orange County Housing Trust, Finance Trust. Really just membership in the trust allows us as a participating city at some point, if we wanted to access monies through the trust for different affordable projects in town, we would be able to do so. As passed by the resolution last year, the amount has come in under the threshold by which the council established. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one public comment.
Okay, would you please read that?
I will. This was sent by Cesar Covo Rubies. It says, Dear Mr. Mayor Vixoric and council members, the Kennedy Commission, the Commission is a broad-based coalition of residents and community organizations that advocates for the production of homes affordable for families earning less than $20,000 annually in Orange County. Formed in 2001, the Commission has been successful in partnering and working with Orange County jurisdictions to create effective housing and land use policies that has led to the new construction of homes affordable to lower income working families. The Commission supports the city's continuing its membership in the OC Housing Finance Trust, OCHFT. It is essential in providing access to affordable housing funding to create affordable and permanent supportive housing. In addition, membership to the OCHFT will help the city leverage housing funds and help attract federal and state affordable housing resources to help create much-needed housing. During the 5th current cycle planning period, the city had a total Regional Housing Needs Assessment, RHNA, of 76 at very low income, 53 at low income, 61 at moderate, and 137 at the above moderate income level. To date, the city has approved 31 housing units at moderate and 137 at above moderate. None of the sole identified RHNA needs have been accomplished in the very low income category and only 9 units at the low income level. Dana Point will need a total of 530 new housing units for the 6 RHNA cycle. Of those units, 147 should be very low income and 84 should be low income units. We understand the current economic strain on the city due to the pandemic, but we ask that the city prioritize the housing needs of large families of very low and extremely low income who encounter difficulties in finding decent, affordable housing during this current and the upcoming planned period. The Commission looks forward to partnering with the city to increase and preserve affordable homes for lower income households in the city. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at 949, should I read his number? Sorry, 250-0909 or CESARC@kennedycommission.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close public comment, bring it back to council. I will move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll go around the horn for any discussion. Councilman Wyatt?
I have no comments. I support this action, and I think we
Thank you.
should.
Councilman Miller? Nothing? Mayor Pro Tem Federico?
I'll just add a few things as I serve on the board of directors of the Orange County Housing Finance Trust, and our membership not also qualifies us or projects in our city to apply for funding, but it also allows us to have a seat on the board of directors there should we get one or want to have one. And I'll tell you, the Housing Finance Trust in its first year in existence went out and found or gathered $10 million in state funding and helped fund 467 new low-income and very low and permanent supportive housing units, which really help contribute to affordable housing, which help minimize homelessness and help solve a lot of the problems that we're facing here. So it is a very effective, I would say, organization in its first year in existence, already meeting its goals and setting even broader goals to help create 2,700 housing units in the next 5 years. So I certainly support us being in it. The cost to join is $4,630 under, by the way, because of some very diligent work by the Orange County Housing Finance Trust staff, under the estimates of what we thought it would be to be members. So I think it's very effective for us to be there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that report. Thanks for your service on the board. I think we all support this, so I'll just, actually, we have more comments from Councilman Miller.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor. And I guess it's maybe to Mayor Pro Tem. Who is actually staffing the housing trust right now? Is that still the county? Are they doing that?
Or would you like to take that question?
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, the county is providing some staffing. We have the trust has an agreement where it will not have any employees. We do have one contractor who serves as the trust general manager in a contractor only capacity. So that one of the reasons the trust was able to keep its expenses down is by not having any employees, not incurring any pension obligations. And we are contracting with the county for certain things like accounting, et cetera.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure that was still the case.
It is still the case, and it's written in the bylaws.
Okay, with that, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, that completes our consent calendar, brings us to the public comments portion of the agenda. There will be a 3-minute time limit per person, and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for this public comments portion of the agenda. At my discretion, the balance of public comments will be heard after the new business portion of the agenda. All comments are to be directed to the city council, shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. State law prohibits the city council from taking action on a specific item unless it appears on the posted agenda. We are still in a hybrid type of meeting where we may have in-person comments or written comments. So I'll first ask the city clerk if we have any live comments tonight.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do we have any written comments?
Yes, we have 4 emailed comments.
Okay, thank you. If you would please read those.
Okay, this is from Danny Gray, Mayor Vixoric, Mayor Pro Tem Federico, City Council members and staff. My name is Danny Gray, a 15-year resident of Capo Beach. I would like to discuss the Community Choice Energy. Currently, there are 21 Community Choice Energy CCE programs operating under Joint Power Agreements, JPA, within California. There are 0 operating within Orange County. These CCE operations are becoming very successful. Return on investment seems to be 1 to 3 years, and credit ratings are on the rise. Community Choice Aggregation, CCA, often referred to as Community Choice Energy, CCE, are local, not-for-profit public agencies that provide electricity service to residents and businesses. Given that they are local with decision-making meetings open to the public, CCAs enhance energy democracy by being more accessible and accountable to the local community. Community choice introduced competition and consumer choice into the electricity sector with a focus on local renewable energy to stimulate rapid innovations in clean energy systems. As not-for-profit agencies, community choice energy providers are not beholden to CEO salaries or shareholder returns, but rather to stable, competitive pricing for consumers and increasingly resilient, clean, and local energy systems. I don't hear too much about CCE and Dana Point, but maybe I haven't paid enough attention lately. In speaking with a couple of business owners in Dana Point, and they were not familiar with CCE. CCE programs have proven beneficial to the residents, businesses, and member cities. I think businesses, churches, and residents should be aware of programs that can save on expenses, especially if they are big energy consumers like St. Regis, Ritz-Carlton, and Marriott. Powerful impacts for community choice include 21 operational community choice agencies in California, serving 10 million plus customers in California, supporting 4,200 plus jobs in California, hundreds of millions of dollars made available for reinvestment in local communities, 3,600 plus megawatts of new renewable energy, dozens of new innovative programs for customers, 940,000 plus metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions avoided per year. The city of Irvine is inviting other Orange County cities to join them in a community choice joint powered agreement. The deadline for cities to join this is fast approaching. City needs to notify the city of Irvine in their interest in joining the JPA ASAP. It is suggested before September 22nd, the next Irvine City Council meeting. This is from Jeremy Navarro. Dear City Council member, lately there were many rallies organized by residents throughout California to oppose Proposition 16. Civil rights activists, law professors, elected officials, students, and parents all spoke passionately against Prop 16 in those rallies. Why was that? I learned that Prop 16 was proposed by the State Assemblywoman Shirley Weber, aiming to repeal Prop 209, part of the California Constitution, which clearly prohibits the state from discriminating against or granting preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. Yet the state wants to repeal it. If Prop 16 passes in the November election, it means we, the Californians, allow the state to discriminate against all of us based on our race, gender, or color, and allow special treatment by the state in college admissions, jobs, and contracting. This is totally unconstitutional and against the American value of equal rights. Furthermore, I have learned that the ballot label was written in a very misleading fashion. It says Prop 16 allows diversity as a factor in public employment, education, and contracting decisions. The legislatures are playing word games with the voters. They replace the word discrimination with the word diversity. This is discrimination in the name of diversity. Let's all not be misled by the ballot label. We should all say no to discrimination, and most of all, discrimination from the state level. Please say no on Prop 16 in November. Thank you. The next is from Peggy Lou. Dear City Council members, city staff, and fellow residents, as the election season is coming up, I would like to draw your attention to Prop 16, which is about government preferences. The California Constitution says, A, the state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. Proposition 16 will strike out and eliminate this language from the California Constitution. No substitute is provided. However, the summary being put forth to voters is this: allows diversity as a factor in public employment, education, and contracting decisions. Legislative constitutional amendment. If diversity is the goal, according to the summary, why eliminate the Constitution that says you cannot benefit one race or gender over the other? Why not propose a proposition that says it? If you specifically benefit one race or gender over the another, isn't that discrimination? Proposition 16 not only hurts one or two races which have higher performances in college admissions, but also in the long run, it will hurt everyone in the state because it legalizes discrimination. Our city doesn't need it. California doesn't need it either. On the contrary, Prop 209 guarantees equal opportunity and fair competition, which has made California one of the most prosperous and diversified states in the whole country. Please stick on it. Therefore, please take the time to read everything this year and be an informed voter. I also urge the City Council to take a position to oppose Prop 16. Peggy Lou. The last is from Ashley Owen. It says, Dear City Council members, I am a concerned resident. My name is Ashley Owen. I will vote no on Proposition 16. Proposition 16 gives government power to discriminate its own residents based on race and gender. This is clearly illegal, and we urge our elected officials to take a stand against it. Supporters of Proposition 16 state that it may benefit people of color in education and government contracting. Yet, Proposition 16 merely eliminates the California Constitution that prohibits discrimination based on race or gender. The majority of voters of our city are against Proposition 16. We must defend our Constitution. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will close public comments and we will move on to council reports. And I'll go around the horn if council members have anything that they would like to report. Councilman Wyatt?
I have turned in my list of meetings to the city clerk and I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miller?
I've turned in my list of meetings. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
I too have turned in my list of meetings. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. I have nothing to report, but I have not turned in my list of meetings and I will do that after the meeting. Okay, that brings us to public hearings. There are no public hearings. We have no unfinished business. Coming now to new business. I am informed and believe that we have some members of our audience who are interested in item 15 and anticipating sort of a lengthy discussion on item 14. My intention is to take item 15 out of order. So with no objection, I'm going to call item 15. And Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have a staff report. Jeff Rossler, our Community Development Manager, will be providing it.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Item 15 in front of you this evening is an amendment to the business regulations in Chapter 5.20 of the Dana Point Municipal Code. The city first adopted business regulations governing massage establishments in December of 2006. In 2008, the state legislature passed SB 731 that superseded local control, and these regulations were further changed with adoption of AB 1147 in an effort to fix the unintended consequences created by SB 731. Under the new law, responsibilities for massage regulations is divided between the California Massage Therapy Council, CAMTAC, maybe from here on out, and local authorities. In collaboration with the Orange County Sheriff Department's Vice team, City of Dana Point staff prepared updated regulations that will hold all establishments to a higher standard of service while guaranteeing that state licensing is obtained through CAMTAC and kept on record with both the code enforcement staff and police services moving forward. Other significant elements of this code update include that all massage establishments must obtain a permit from the city in order to commence and continue operations on an annual basis. Owner-operators must provide the city with a complete roster of their employees and proofs of certification for all massage practitioners. Thereafter, the city must be notified of any changing in staffing levels. Each massage technician must display their ID on their clothing at all times. Owners, operators, and managers are responsible for the on-site conduct of all employees, and city officials, including police services, may make reasonable inspections of massage establishments. By approving the recommended amendment, the City Police Services and Code Enforcement Division will continue to work together to ensure effective and efficient monitoring of these businesses, which will continue to make Dana Point a world-class place. Investigator Ledbetter from OCSD and myself are here to answer any questions you might have concerning this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very well. I'll bring it back to council. I will move the recommended action. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, which we can now go around for council discussion. Councilman Wyatt?
I don't have any specifics on this. I think the work done to update our ordinance, I think that's done an excellent job, and I want to thank staff for doing that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Rustler, this is basically what the ordinances looked like back in '05 before the state came in and said that they're going to take over oversight. Is that correct?
It is, I feel, upgraded, but it certainly goes back to a model that we were using prior to the state getting involved.
And I understand the reasoning behind this, that there's a problem with human trafficking in this country. And I like the idea that we're looking at this. However, we have a large number of resort and spas here. Have we spoken with them and they're okay with all of this?
We will make sure we reach out to them.
Okay. I doubt that they're going to have a problem with this. I'm sure they're meeting all of this anyway, but just wanted to point that out. So I do support this. So thank you.
Understood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll echo thank you to staff and OCSD for staying on top of this changing legislation, which I think, quite frankly, in this case, is changing back for the better. It seems to me, having read through this, and I've asked this question already to the city manager, that for any legitimate establishment, it's pretty simple to comply. Is it your opinion that this is pretty simple? We're not putting outrageous bureaucratic obstacles in front of good operators?
That is correct.
Okay. Then I'll certainly support this.
Okay. And I'll take the opportunity to say thank you as well for your work on this. And obviously, when we have the opportunity to do things at the local level rather than state level, and we get a little bit more control over things, that is a good thing. So I appreciate you, what you've done here, and I appreciate the work of everyone else involved in following this issue. And as Councilman Miller said, this is an issue that can be of great importance. So thank you for staying on top of it. And obviously, I'm going to support this too. So with that, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Rostler. If you have something else you'd like to thank, I think your microphone's off. All
Oh,
right.
sorry. I just wanted to say I'd like to thank OCSD for all their help on this and the work that Investigator Ledbetter did on this.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. With that, we will go back to item 13, which is the salary ranges for represented and non-represented employee classifications. Calling the item, I will ask the city manager. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Yes, sir. And as I'm leading into getting into the staff report, I want to thank the Sheriff's Department staff too, and encourage them if they want to leave at this point. It'd be a good time. Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is our annual resolution that's required for the council to adopt salary ranges for represented and non-represented staff, as well as an annual look at our city's conflict of interest code. Just real briefly, I know each of you have seen this in past years, but we have a memorandum of understanding with our represented group that does require an annual salary survey be conducted. And then with that salary survey of comparable agencies in the county, we set our salary ranges. And it's important to note that any adjustments to salary ranges do not change actual pay to employees unless an employee working for the city right now ends up being paid less than the low end of the adjusted salary range. Salary range surveys were conducted again this year for all of our represented and non-represented classifications. For 28 of the 30s position classifications covered by the Dana Point Employees Association MOU, salary ranges increased from 1.6 to 5%. Kind of a bottom line here is that the net effect, we did have a couple of employees that fell below the bottom of the range that we are required to bump them up to the bottom of the range. The annual cost is $6,000, and I've included it in the next agenda item on the budget. I also want to mention in here, we've got a couple changes to some of the classifications. We've changed our the current one on the books is the Assistant City Manager / Director of Administrative Services. My prior position, we're changing that to be the Assistant City Manager, Director of Economic Development and Community Services. Kelly Renders has been serving in that role since April and doing a commendable job. Also, our Human Resources Manager classification definition, if you will, is recognizing that she took over risk management a couple years ago, and we're adjusting that title at this point in time. With that, I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to council. I'll move the recommended item action. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we can open it up to discussion, and let's go around the horn. Councilman Wyatt?
Well, in general, I think this is just, normal process. We're abiding by our contract. One comment I would like to make is these 3 position adjustments. I think we've worked hard to look at where we are staff-wise, and as every time there's an opening to look to, instead of simply refilling it, to reorganize as need be and become more effective. In our strategic plan, there's an incentive to try to find new and innovative ways out of our staff to do things. I think we should go back and review some of these things that we've done that I think are innovative, and I appreciate the effort from staff to think through every time there's an opportunity to change something, to think about how to do it most effectively. And so I think these are, good moves, and I wanted to express my appreciation for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank staff for the hard work on this. I know these are things that we've been talking about, and staffing is always a big issue for us, and you guys have done a fantastic job. So thank you on this.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
I agree with those comments.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. City Manager, I just want to point out that on page 6 of the staff report, where you have listed various of the positions, that one of the reasons that you've done such great work with the staff as city manager and being able to look for savings, and during this time that we're in, you've done an excellent job at having people cover down on other people's jobs that may not have been their original job that they were hired to do. But it's a testament to you and our staff, the ability to be flexible and cover down on other jobs that may not have been what you thought when you came in. you're going to be doing. And so some of these positions are left unfilled, but there is some flexibility, again, to work with if we need to, again, reorganize the staff. So I just want to make that clear. And so thanks for the work you've done on this. And with that, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Let's move on to the last item is item 14, the fiscal year 2019-2020 fourth quarter financial reports. And Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you'll be happy to know that I do not have a 25-slide PowerPoint presentation tonight like I did a couple weeks ago. And given that we did cover the vast majority of the adjustments that are proposed in here, so I'm not going to go through them, but I'm available to answer questions. In addition to what I talked about as far as an update for the general fund, how we finished last fiscal year of June 30, and how I was proposing to move into solving this year's budget hit. That's what you see in all these adjustments. Just to sum it up really quick, the actions that are in this agenda report, you do have a receive and file of our fourth quarter financial report that I did highlight last week, but now we've got it all written up and included in here. We do have but a carryover of budget for contracts that were outstanding and efforts that were outstanding at the end of the year that had not finished. So we carry over budget for that. We did update the economic stability reserve and extreme event reserves, which was an important part of our strategy, that we start from a base level that if everything was normal, our reserves would be set at a certain amount, and that's where we started solving from. We do adjust the FY21 budget for COVID-related revenue impacts, and there's some detailed reports on the impact on the general fund's ending fund balance, including use of reserves. And finally, it does update, there's action in here to update all the budgeted revenues and expenditures for this year. And then there's a budget calendar also that is an action item. So in addition to the lengthy PowerPoint presentation I gave a couple of weeks ago on the general fund, the rest of the city's funds are also included in here for some slight adjustments that take into account updates on revenues in particular, and also into funding our fully funded capital program. And I just wanted to call those out. We've updated the project list for our facilities fund for projects we're going to be tackling this year. And with that, without going into too much detail, there's a lot of detail in the report itself, and we're available to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll bring it back to council. I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to talk a little bit longer. Usually I just say move the recommended action. The number one is a receive and file. So that won't be, we don't need a motion on that. That won't be part of my motion. I'm going to be moving items 2 and 3, but of course, number one, if during discussion, if any council member wants to have comments regarding the FY20 financial report that we're receiving and filing, of course, those comments are going to be within the bounds of our discussion. So anyways, with that, I will move items or subsections 2 and 3 of the recommended action. Is there a second?
I will second that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We've got a motion and a second, and we can go around and start our discussion on these items. So I'll start with Councilman Wyatt.
I mean, just check with our city manager and make sure that a number. So we basically have a carryover of about 953,000. And we have a total budget impact estimated now at about 5 million, just 5,950,000 essentially. So, and we have identified an additional 2,300,000 of cuts, right? So we still have about 3.5 million that we'll have to work on how we cover out of this budget from various places during the course of the year. Is that correct?
I guess I'm not following the math. We have 489,000 of purchase orders carrying over, not
So
over
that's your
9.
carryover, right?
Yeah, that's,
And then your next statement in here was that your total budget impact after carryover was 5.947 something, right?
if you could, maybe there's a summary page, if you will,
Yeah.
on page 8 that shows the base budget versus the net of the proposal for both revenues and expenditures. And then the use of the economic stability reserve.
Right, I was gonna say, so then that's the point. All the rest of that money then has to come out of various reserves and other to cover that, right? I mean, basically, we still have a hole we're covering by pulling things, and as the next 6 months goes through, as we work through this, we'll adjust as
Yes,
up and down on those, right?
the hole, if you will, that wasn't solved from adjustments to revenues and expenditure budgets
Yeah.
was the 2.1 million drawn from that's recommended to be drawn from the economic stability reserve.
Yeah, right.
That was also reestablished at what would have been a higher rate, as opposed to using the lower number we could have used based on
Yes,
policy.
understood, right, yes. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with the moves. I'm just trying to make sure I know as we're juggling, pulling things out of reserves and other accounts to cover about where we're in the 3 million plus range that we're having to look at where it's to cover at the moment. I think that's okay. Yeah, I think ultimately my only comment is that, this is a discussion, as you know, for nearly at every council meeting now, and just where we are and whether that number's right or not. And it's an ongoing thing. But yeah, I think it's a good job of thoughtfully thinking through and keeping things like our facility maintenance going, because we had so much deferred maintenance. We're finally catching up, looking at the CIP fund and reprioritizing the facility maintenance, reprioritizing CIP expenses as we go through there, and not adding more money when we haven't yet identified where we would spend all the money that's in there. I think the work done is been really thoughtful, and I appreciate it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second or third time we've seen this now. And I just want to reiterate what I said a couple weeks ago, is I think staff's done a very good job of finding the cuts that we need, plugging the holes that we had, and really had a lot of foresight working with this council a little over a year ago, reworking our financial policies to make sure that these reserves were actually available to us in a time of need like this. Unfortunately, nobody thought it was going to be this quickly, but I'm really happy that we got that done. So I just want to say thank you again for a job well done. We still have issues going forward. We know that. We don't know the full impact of COVID-19 yet, and hopefully we'll know relatively shortly what we really need to be working on, and hopefully our TOT will rebound. So thank you for all this work.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and it's never fun to have to spend your reserves, but that's what they're there for. And due to a lot of fiscal responsibility from this city hall and councils that way predate me, we're in a position where, we can cover that gap between what we would like to spend, what we plan to spend, and what we think we're going to bring in for revenue. The reality is we could have cut that revenue or those expenditures, I believe, if we really wanted to. We could have not done any maintenance on our buildings. We could have deferred maintenance on our roads, but we are in a position where we can afford to do that because we have these reserves. The challenge is, like Councilmember Wyatt mentioned, watching this closely and seeing how quickly our economy and our revenues come back. And I think we're all aware of that and paying close attention. I know the Financial Review Committee, one of the things in here that we're approving is the budget calendar. And so we're going to watch that very closely at the Financial Review Committee and bring back recommendations here to the council. And I know that the city manager is watching this every day. So I feel like we're in very good hands, and I have no problem supporting this and adopting this budget.
Okay. Thank you. And just to add on to the comments of my colleagues, thank you for the work you've done. You've taken the policies that we have, you've worked with them, obviously helped craft them and create them. It's been an excellent job to put us in this position where we are to try to weather the storm. I think we're probably in much better shape than many other jurisdictions, in large part thanks to you. So really appreciate that work that you've done. And not only in plugging these holes, we know looking forward, as has been said, that we still have work to do. But I do want to point out that it's not something that we haven't thought about. We've thought about how to replenish our funds and what our priorities are if we do gain more funds, and how we are going to replenish our reserves, and what our priorities are in doing that. And I also want to point out that this was done in a conservative manner. I mean, we didn't look for things saying, well, sure, we'll balance it and expect that we're going to get new federal funding that we can spend, unrestricted, because that obviously we might have one point thought that we would get that. But the way things are going in Washington, it doesn't look that way. And so I want to say that is great work, being able to do this without even factoring that in. And again, I don't know if other jurisdictions are trying to do it with the, hope and a prayer that they get some kind of infusion of money like that, but we were able to do it without that. So again, I think it is thanks to prior city councils and obviously the staff, especially you, Mr. Kilbrew. So what you've done for the city is very commendable. So having said that, I don't have any further comments. If anyone else does, okay. With that, I'll call for the vote, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay. Brings us to staff reports. Mr. City Manager.
Just really briefly, the youth board appointments were on the consent calendar, and I talked to each of you about it. I do just want to give a shout out to the 10 high school kids that volunteered to be on the youth board this year. They got their work cut out for them, also figuring out how to have an impact on the community given everything we're going through. But our staff's really excited to work with them, and we have a great group coming in, and I just want to congratulate all of them.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney.
If I could just take a moment to give a shameless plug to the 5th Marine Support Group. Their golf tournament is Monday, and it's a little bit different this year than in years past because of the COVID restrictions. They do have an online auction going on and opportunities for people to participate if you want to look at their website.
Thank you for that plug. You'll get no objections here. All right, that brings us to the adjournment. We are not going to adjourn. We're going to recess back into closed session before we adjourn, but I will just state for the record now that the next regular meeting of the City Council will be October 6, 2020 at 5 p.m. Here in the City Council chambers. With that, we are in recess.